Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I hope you're all doing well, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a great weekend, and hopefully we'll have a good week ahead. So happy Monday to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that saw the video that I put out on Saturday, remember when I was saying this? Don't be surprised when the same thing that's happening now with baby formula starts to happen with food. So when I said that on that video this Saturday, I didn't know anything about this right here that I'm going to talk to you about today. This video is going to be split up into two parts. All right, the first part I'm going to be talking about this shortage here that the United States is having, and what I stated on that video that I felt that the United States would allow, the government would allow corporations to export things that we are in shortage of. I found this article that I'm going to share with you, but first I want to just show you this. And it says, what is Spudpocalypse? U.S. warned it's headed for a massive potato shortage. And this is dated February 9th, okay? And then I found another one here that says, hot potato Spudpocalypse sparks a potato shortage across U.S. as disease and supply chain issues wreak havoc on spuds. So we're having a potato shortage, and I kind of confirmed this. I used to work in the food industry before, or in the dairy industry for a little over a decade, before I joined the military. And, I still have some contacts in the food industry. And I talked to a friend of mine that works at a pretty big company. And he said that they're having problems getting potatoes, that he had to pretty much search all over to try to get these potatoes that they need. And he finally found them, but after searching for a while. So we are having somewhat of a potato shortage. Maybe it's not seen at the shelf on an everyday basis, by everyone around the U.S. It's probably more of a regional thing. But nonetheless, we're having a potato shortage. So check this out, ladies and gentlemen. I found this article here early this morning. Mexico receives first shipment of U.S. fresh potatoes in 25 years. So as I stated on that video, that I believe that one day the U.S. would export foods and export commodities that we here are in shortage of, or that we here need, to other countries. And although it's not really the farmer that's doing this, all right, this has nothing to do with the farmers, ladies and gentlemen. The farmers do not decide where their potatoes go. The farmers usually have a contract that they negotiate a lot of times prior to the planting of whatever they're going to plant, and it's at a set price, and they get whatever the set price is that they agreed on. Whether the price of the commodity is up or down, they get that set price. So they don't decide where it goes. It's kind of like the middleman, or the big corporate farmers, the big corporations that act as middleman and then wholesale these potatoes or whatever commodity it may be to wherever it is that they're going to send it to for the most profit. Well, as you all know, and if you don't know, let me fill you in, that corporations in the United States, in addition to the banks, they own the government. All right, so they own the government. They lobby and they bribe these politicians so that they can pass laws, rules, regulations that will allow them to pretty much fleece the American people, especially the farmer as well. So these corporations, these CEOs, they see it fit that while we here in the United States have a shortage of potatoes, that they go ahead and send their potatoes out to another country. Now, it doesn't matter that it's Mexico. It doesn't matter what country it is, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Just in case somebody wants to play that game. It doesn't matter what country it is. What matters is that it's leaving our borders to go somewhere else when we here need it ourselves. All right, and let me go ahead and read a little bit to you. It says, Mexico has received its first shipment of U.S. fresh potatoes in 25 years. Imagine that during a time where we're having shortages, we are going ahead and exporting one of those things that we're running a shortage on out to a different country. National Potato Council CEO Cam Quarles says it's a great first step to restoring full market access after decades of disputes and legal obstructions. And they've been pushing very hard to get this door to be cracked open. Well, I guess it's cracked open now. I guess it depends on how much you want to bribe or push a politician to go your way so that you can make more profit. I'm not against profit, ladies and gentlemen, but I am for these United States of America. I am for us, and I wholeheartedly don't agree that our government allow things that we need here in the United States for our people here to be exported before we have our fill. Okay, before we have our fill. Yes, those are the things that we need. We should keep them here. And many other countries are doing the same thing right now. India just reported that they are not going to export any more grains or any more cereals, i.e. wheat. All right, there's many other countries that are not exporting because they know they're going to need that food for their people. But here in the United States, well, ladies and gentlemen, as I've often stated, the government will forsake its people. And it's happening a lot sooner than I thought. When I mentioned this here on Saturday's video, I wasn't thinking that they were already doing this. But as you can see here, this article is dated May 16th. I put that video up, I think it was May 14th on Saturday. So this article hadn't even come out. And it's pretty disgraceful. And what's the message? When a government doesn't care about its people, it will continue to do those things that are detrimental to its people. You have to understand this, ladies and gentlemen. That is why being prepared is so very important. And I wanted to cover a little bit of why I'm doing these articles. So I know this is a prepper channel, but I understand also that knowledge is a great way to prep. And if we see something coming ahead, or if we see something that has a high probability of causing any kind of a crisis in the future, it is good for us to be informed and good to know that there may be a probability that, hey, who knows, maybe this potato shortage that we're having now, maybe it'll exacerbate to where you can't even find it on the shelves. So it's good to know these things, but it's also good to know that the government is not going to take care of you, ladies and gentlemen. Unless you have a couple $1 billion and you can bribe a whole bunch of politicians, the government's not going to take care of you. Why? Because it's not there to take care of you. It's there to take care of itself. Right? Continuity. Right? Continuity of government, whatever it is, or continuity of power. That's really what it should be. They're there for themselves, so you have to prepare for yourselves and your family. All right? That's why I bring this article up, because it's very revealing as to how much the government is going to take care of you during really hard times. I mean, we've got really hard times now in the United States of America for a lot of people. Is the government there for them? No, they're taking our money, they're taking our wealth and shipping it overseas, and now our potatoes as well. Well, I'm going to have to call my friend Jack up and tell him, hey, I know where you can find your potatoes that you've been looking for. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that's very important, probably more important than these potatoes. And that's this, ladies and gentlemen. Rabobank. There are whispers of a shift to physical commodities being used as trade settlement. This is very, very concerning, ladies and gentlemen. I've been telling you for a long time that eventually the United States dollar, i.e. the Federal Reserve note, will stop being used as the main trading vessel around the world. For those of you that don't understand, there is a system that is called the SWIFT system. And the only currency that you can use within the SWIFT system, I think it's the US dollar and maybe the euro. Not sure. You can correct me on that in the comments, please. But you need US dollars to trade internationally. Well, countries are waking up. They're waking up to the fact that the United States government, all right, when I say the United States, make sure you understand that I mean the United States government. I don't mean we the people. We are just as much victims as anyone else. It's the government. But other countries are waking up that the United States government has weaponized the dollar and they have weaponized the SWIFT system. What do I mean by that? That if they don't play ball, that they can just kick them off the SWIFT system, just like they did with Russia. So countries are like, wait a minute, if we do something that the U.S. doesn't like, they can just take our money like they took Russia's money? Yes, they can. And they will. So now they are using one of the oldest forms of trade that has been used in humanity. And that is what? It's probably the oldest form of trade that has been used throughout humanity. And what is that? That's the black market, ladies and gentlemen. All right? That's the black market. So countries are now going and doing bilateral trading, meaning that they're trading directly with one country to another, saying, hey, if you send me 1 million flip-flops, I'll send you, 500,000 pounds of rice. Bypassing the dollar and the SWIFT system altogether. So they're pretty much telling the systems that the U.S. put in place, hey, we don't need you. And a lot of countries are catching up to this, and they're going along with this because they no longer want to play ball with the biggest bully in the block, unfortunately. Well, maybe not unfortunately. But I wanted to go ahead and read a little bit of something for you here. This is all we're going to go through. It says here, as commodities surge and have been weaponized and are talked of as backing a new world order, okay? There are also whispers of a shift to physical commodities being used as trade settlement. So pretty much they said here what I pretty much just said. As countries realize that the U.S. and some other Western nations are using their power, all right, to try to influence other countries as to what to do, and if they don't do it, they'll punish them, that they are now going to turn or are turning into trading bilaterally using commodities, using goods instead of using paper. All right. Cargoes are still priced in U.S. dollars, but allegedly de facto barter is already taking place to circumvent the global dollar system and any potential Western sanctions. So they are using commodities as bilateral trading instead of using the dollar. Can you see why the Fed needs to act on that urgently as well? This is not an existential threat per se, but as with crypto, it limits the Fed's ability to achieve its goals. Just as if everyone can print their own money, what does it matter where Fed funds sits? If commodities are so expensive, they can be bartered as settlement. How can the Fed bring inflation down? Now, what they're saying here is that the Federal Reserve, pretty much, this is how I take this. The Federal Reserve is stuck. There is nothing that the Federal Reserve can do, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain to you why. The Federal Reserve, right now, I think that the Fed funds rate, which is the interest rate that they put forth after they added that 50 basis points to the Fed funds rate, I think it brought it up to 75 basis points, or maybe 1%. I'm not sure. I think it's 75, though. Right now, inflation, as stated by the Federal Reserve, is around 8.4, 8.5%. Okay? Now, if you have the Fed funds rate at 1% and you have inflation at 8.5%, it means that inflation is going to continue to run rampant. Because the only way to fix inflation is to bring in all of those extra dollars that are in the system. And you cannot bring in all of those extra dollars that are in the system as long as the inflation rate is higher than the interest rate. All right. So the way that money is killed, all right, is when debt is paid off and no new debt is created. That's the way that money dies. Okay. So if the Fed wants to fight inflation, they have to bring the interest rate up to at least what the inflation rate is, if not higher. That's the only way that they can bring in all that inflation. And inflation is what? The expansion of the money supply. So that's the only way that they can start to bring in all of those dollars that are excess in the system. And that's a way that they can manipulate, I guess you can say, or make people want to stop borrowing money. Because whenever you borrow money from a bank, money is being printed out of thin air. When you go borrow $500,000 to buy a house from a bank, that $500,000 the bank did not have. They just created it out of thin air. Whenever they pushed those buttons on the keyboard, they just created it out of thin air. So that's making new debt. So high interest rate discourages borrowing, and high interest rates kills money because it brings the money back in. It sucks it back in. Well, the Federal Reserve cannot do that. They can't bring interest rates all the way up to what the inflation rate is, because if they did, we would have a market crash worldwide overnight. All the banks would close. Everything would be over, and they would lose all control. All right, ladies and gentlemen, they would lose all control. But if they don't bring the interest rate up to match at least inflation, then what's going to happen? Inflation is going to continue to go up. Right? And then what's going to happen to your purchasing power? It's going to continue to go down more and more and more, just like it has. And then what's going to happen to countries that have dollar-denominated loans? They're going to crash as well, which will then crash the dollar, which will then crash everything. I mean, it is a complicated system, but in a way it's not. Pretty much the Fed is trying to do nature's job. All right. Nature will do the job by itself, but the Fed is trying to do it. And you cannot manipulate nature forever, ladies and gentlemen, because anything that is manipulated will continue to be manipulated until it can no longer be manipulated. And that is where we're coming to. We are coming to a point in time where the Fed has lost absolute control. And the only way that they can save their own skin is by doing one thing, in my opinion, and that is a CBDC. A centrally banked digital currency. where they can pretty much enslave the entire population of the entire world pretty much. I think that right now, 90% of all central banks are working on a centrally banked digital currency. A digital currency that they control, that they can tell you what you can buy, when you can buy it, how much of it you can buy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what a CBDC is. So when you hear the word or the term CBDC, centrally banked digital currency, by the Federal Reserve Chairman or any other pundit, what they are telling you is that they want to enslave you even more than what you are now, because that is exactly what a CBDC will be used for. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got something out of this, all right? I do have some videos that I'm going to be putting out. I really enjoy doing these videos, okay? I know that some people may say, well, this is a prepper channel, but you cover a lot of news. Well, this is prepping news, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I go over these videos is to try to inform you as to what may be coming in the future because of what's happening now. All right. I love to study other countries and to see what's going on, like in Singapore and Lebanon and Iran. They're having food riots all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. So you better be preparing, okay? Because eventually it is going to come to a city near you. No matter how optimistic you are, eventually it will come to a city near you. So I hope you appreciate that I do these articles. But I do have a review coming up of the biggest solar generator that I've ever reviewed. Number one, that comes with a very nice giveaway, by the way. So that'll be probably later on this week. I also have a video of a prep that I think everyone ought to have. And I've never seen one prepping channel mention it. I'm going to be doing that. I've ordered it. I just have to get it in because I actually need it. I don't have it. All right. And I'm also going to be doing a video for those of you that are maybe new to YouTube, as far as like maybe have your own channels or maybe want to start doing your own channel. It's going to be like a behind the scenes. I'm going to show you what equipment I have, how I use it, what editing software I have, and pretty much the process that I go through for like creating a short YouTube video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because a lot of people email me and ask me, hey, what do you use for editing? What do you use for a camera? What do you use for this or that? And it's been a learning process for me. So everything that I'm going to show you is pretty much everything that's taken me 4 years to learn. I have a very, very high learning curve, ladies and gentlemen. All right. However, I'll be coming out with that too here in the near future. So it's not just videos about me talking about these things, but I'm still going to go ahead and do things like I've always done. It's just, this was very interesting to me, and I think it's something that we ought to pay attention to. Having said that, I hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week, ladies and gentlemen. God bless every one of you, and please continue to prep, because the worst that can happen is that you need it and you have it. But the best that can happen is that you have it and you never need it. You can just rotate that out and use it in your everyday living. God bless you all.